Okie dokie, la 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 la. Here we go. Alrighty, guys, there's our warm up. I want you to solve these if possible, and if not, interpret your end result. We'll see how that goes, guys. You might want to pause the video because we're ready to get started here in just a minute. Go ahead and pause it in 3, 2, 1, pause. All right, let's get this thing clipped out. Okay. Can I get you back up here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? What an excellent countdown from 5. I think you guys do deserve a point for that. Thanks so much, everyone. Okay, let's see here, guys. Just giving PDF Annotator a second to load up. Let's see here. Yeah, I know, not yet. We'll open that up in a minute. There's a solution for everything. In math, that's not true. It turns out that some things just don't have a solution, and that's okay. That's okay. You deal with it, right? Because sometimes knowing that there's no solution is just fine, right? It's almost the same as having a solution. Because now you're like, well, okay, moving on. Is there a life lesson in that? I can't tell if that's a good life lesson or if that's a bad life lesson. Is that a good life lesson or a bad one, guys? Saying that, like, sometimes there's not a solution to something, and that's okay. Is that good or is that bad? I think that's good. I think that might be good. Just understanding that you can't solve this problem. It's kind of like, when I watched Lightyear, you guys know the Buzz Lightyear movie? I remember watching it, and I remember liking it, and however, I do want to say that is no 10-year-old's favorite movie. That movie about, like, loss and accepting your own mistakes and how some things just can't get fixed and you have to move on with your life, like, that is an advanced concept for Andy to be like, oh, yay! Like, that movie is, like, deep, right? Like, it's not like a crazy action movie. It's like coming to terms with your own mistakes. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Hey, Andy, what's happening? Okay, very good. However, you know what it can't do is show me the opposites and balance. So if you love getting 2s, go for it. All right, so let's see here, guys. I'm looking for a little bit of help here. Let's go for William. William, how would you solve number 1? What would your first step be? Oh, sorry. William C. I should have specified. Yeah. And that turns it into 4 minus 6 minus 2p equals 5 plus 2p. How many of us saw that and our hackles raised a little bit? Hey, it's okay because I know that in the end it might be okay, but I know when I see 2p on both sides, I'm like, I know what you're up to. David, what would your next step be here? Now, not everybody does the same thing, but what would you do? Mm-hmm. Great. You combined like terms. That is actually my instinct as well. That's what I tend to do. Now, that's not what everybody does. Someone out there might have added 6 to both sides, subtracted 4 to both sides, added 2p to both sides. How many of us did one of those instead of combining like terms? Totally allowed and totally okay. 4 minus 6 is negative 2 minus 2p equals 5 plus 2p. Beautiful. Now that we've got that, where should we go with it? Let's see here. Ethan, where should we go with that now that we have it? Sure. Let's add 2p to both sides. We're going to get rid of that minus 2p. And look at that. Everything's right as rain. Negative 2 equals 5 plus 4p. Now it's just a 2-step equation. We're pretty good at those. Kale, how are we going to handle? What's the next step you would do for that 2-step equation? That's what I would do as well. At this point, it's pretty set in stone what we want to do. I mean, you could do other things, but I find that would be the most helpful move. And let's see, last but not least, Xander, what should my last step be to get this thing solved and finished? Divide both sides by 4. Beautiful. Which means TI SmartView, TM emulator software for the TI-30X/TI-34 multi-view. TM calculators, Texas Instruments, validating software license, dot, 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 validating software license. Now it's just waiting around for this to, so I can, there we go. All right, -7 divided by 4. -1.75. So P equals -1.75. How many of us were able to get that? See how we got that in our 201. Very good. Excellent. I love it. I remember there was one year in my first period class, I like lost my voice, and I was like, I need you guys to sing the song for me, okay? And I opened it up, and it must have been like the entirety of like advanced choir, because they were like, TI SmartView, TM emulator software for the T. And I was like tearing up. I was like, and I was just like, you guys, I don't know if students go to teacher funerals, but if you make it to my funeral, please, please bust that song out. It's like, that would be so great. That would be so great. Like, I could so imagine that happening. And like all of my students are like, TI SmartView. And it's like beautiful. And like, my wife is crying and my kids are like, oh, Dad. And then me in the coffin, I'm just like smirking. Like, I'm in there like, yes. Okay, let's see here, guys. What about number 2? How are we going to handle number 2? Maya, what would your first step for number 2 be? And what does that get us? And yes, I love that. I love that because it is the most mathematically sound to me that you actually thought of it as minus a -7L, which of course is addition, and then we simplified it. I love that. Very good. Excellent. Thank you very much, Maya. Now, what if we're looking at this thing? How are we going to handle this? Isaac, what would your next step for this be? All right, we combine like terms. Which terms would you like to combine? And that would give us 11L. 11L minus 14 equals 11L minus 14. How many of us are already looking at this with eyes of suspicion? Yeah, something's amiss. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you stopped right there, I would totally understand. I would totally understand that if you stopped right there. However, let's just keep going and see what happens if we just try to run it through the steps that we're used to. Let's see here. Oh, no, I just already called on Maya. Let's see here. Isla, what would your next step be? See it? Okay, hang on. Let me clean it up a little bit. 11L minus 14 equals 11L minus 14. Go ahead, Isla. Is it plus 14? Oh, excuse me. Plus. Whoop. Oh, there you go. I got you. Thank you. Thank you. Carry on. That's going to give us 11L minus 28 equals 11L. We're on a collision course with disaster. Let's see here. Can I get a little bit of help from Ellie? What would you do next? Yeah, let's collect our variables onto the same side because that's kind of what we do with these guys. And that leaves us with -28 equals 0. Now, guys, is that true or is this false? That is false, which means there's no solution. There's no solution to that equation. Yep, can't do it. Doesn't work. All right, so let's look at numero trace. Let's see here. Alexander, how would you handle number 3? What would your first step be? Sure, so distributing in. There you go. Absolutely. That's going to give us 6r minus 10 plus 2r plus 7. I thought for a second you were going to say like combining the 2r and the 8r. Like you could subtract 2r, subtract 8r. Would that be allowed, guys? Yes or no? Yeah, it would. And it would be helpful. I wouldn't see any problems with that. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that right away, but you know what? You're allowed to solve these the way you want to. As long as I can see that opposites and balance. Do you guys see what I mean by this opposites and balance, by the way? Is that every step of the way, it is clear how you got from here to here to here to here to here. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Okay? Yes, sir, Hugh.
Every time that you multiply in the parentheses, does the addition or subtraction thing switch?
It doesn't. You'll notice that it didn't here and it did up here. And the reason it did up here, Hugh, is because that's a negative 7 times 2, which is a negative 14, and a negative 7 times a negative L, which is a positive 7L. Over here, it was a positive 2, and positive 2 times a positive 3 is positive 6, and a positive 2 times a negative 5 is a negative 10. Yeah, it's kind of like that when, is it a minus sign or a negative, guys? Yes, indeed. Yeah, both or yes. Uh-huh. It depends on the context, depends on what you're doing with it. Aditri, what would you do with this equation now?
I would add 6R and
Sure, so combine like terms. That's my instinct as well. Some people want to subtract 6R from both sides, and that's totally fine. That's going to give us 8R minus 3. We didn't touch that. That's going to be 8R minus 10 plus 7. Let's see here. Ross, what would you do with this next?
I would get rid of
So you'd get rid of this minus 3. So you'd add 3 here. And then what else would you add 3 to?
the other side.
Great. Now here's the thing. This is totally allowed, but I'm going to show you something that will not work. People do that all the time, but it does not work. So when I say teach, I want you to say, okay, talk to each other about why do you think people do that? And also, why is that wrong? Because people do that. This is a totally legal move that you're going to do, Ross. However, this is an incorrect way to do it that I see sometimes happen when people do this at this stage. What do you think they do that, and why is that wrong? Teach! William, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that is exactly right. Awesome. Good observation. Good observation. Good observation. I'm sorry, I just heard William. I can only do what I hear. Okay, can I get you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? William, why do you think people do this?
Because they're not sure which one to do, like adding to the negative 10 or the positive 7.
Yeah, exactly. So they just do it to both. But why is that incorrect? And I think I heard someone say it over here. Andy, why is that incorrect? Yeah, exactly. We're adding 3 to one side of the equation and 6 to the other one. I mean, this is the thing, guys. This happens all the time in real life. You walk into a situation and you don't know what to do. Like you're like, oh no, which lever was I supposed to pull? So you just pull both of them. Is this a good idea? No, not. It's like, hey, if you like chaos, I'm into it. But which one do you got? So we have to decide which one we want to add to, the negative 10 or the 7. I don't care which one. Which one do you want to do, Will? Okay, so then we get rid of this. That means that 8R is equal to 8R minus 7 plus 7. Okay, what do you guys want to do next? Let's see if I can get a help. George, what would you do next with this? I'm glad we're talking. There's a bunch of things we can do. One of them is to combine like terms. You're never going to get in trouble combining like terms. One of them is opposites and balance. You're never going to get in trouble for opposites and balance. So what do you want to do? You want to combine like terms or do opposites and balance? Let's do it. I'll use $7, and then I give you $7. What's the story? We're all set. 8R equals 8R. Now, at that point, you could stop. I would be so okay with you stopping right there. But if you really want to take it all the way down the rabbit hole and say, well, let's see here. Let's combine our variables onto the same side. I get 0 equals 0. Get the surprised guy. And guys, is there, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Just say it. Infinitely many solutions. We would write IMS, or you can also think infinitely many solitons. Infinitely many solutions. Very good. Excellent. Just so you know, guys, this warm-up is exactly what your level 3 is going to look like tomorrow. Exactly what your level 3 is going to look like tomorrow. This is what your level 3s look like. How many of us are feeling pretty confident about that? You guys feeling good? I love it. Hey, it's the 33rd day of school. Did you guys know in Isaac Newton's original thermometers, it had water starting to boil at a heat index of 33? Yeah, he had a temperature scale that Celsius wound up being based on, but in his scale, 33 is when water started to boil, and then 34 was actually more important because that's when water boils vigorously. 0 is when it freezes. So he still had the, sorry, 0 is when it's starting to freeze. And then under that, it's when it's really frozen. It's Isaac Newton's an interesting character. Like you know, you think of him as like this absolute pillar of science, which he is, but he definitely had some foibles. And like I think his temperature scale, it's like the beginnings of something cool. Also, it's weird because he never talked about like degrees or anything. It was well, not degree. He never, even though he had a thermometer, he never actually referred to temperature. He never used that word. He used degrees of heat. Yeah, it is weird. It's National Golf Day. I don't know why National Golf Day is in like early October when it's not necessarily going to be a very nice day to golf. I feel like September is like late September should be National Golf Day because that's almost always really nice. That's almost always really nice. Alrighty, let's see here, guys. What's our first essential question, James? Yeah, may we practice solving or attempt to solve. Solving or attempting to solve. Gesundheit. Equations for tomorrow's skill check. Okay. Maybe practice solving or attempting to solve equations for tomorrow's skill check. Let's see here, guys. Card games. The most valuable card from this CCG is a holographic Pikachu Illustrator running a cool $6 million. That is indeed Pokemon the card game. And if I saw Wheel for car parts, I'd be doing this. Steering wheel. It's the steering wheel specifically. Very good. Okay, with that being said, guys, when I say teach, I know not today, when I say teach, I want you guys to say, okay, I want you to work on 4.4, how many solution skill check review? Or if you haven't done it yet, 4.3. I'll tell you right now, guys, your level 1s are solving one-step equations. Sorry, not one-step equations. That would be awesome. One-sided equations. Level 2 is solving two-sided equations. Level 3 is solving two-sided equations that may have one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions, and you have to tell me which one. And your level 4 is something like this. 3 open parentheses, ax minus 7, close parentheses, plus b equals 9x plus 2. And I'm going to ask you to tell me an a and a b. You're going to make up your own a and b so that that has infinitely many solutions. That is your job. That's our level 4. Hey, you're saying you? I'll tell you guys, if you think about it, it's not as bad. How many of us are like, wait, that's not as bad as that is? That's not as bad as you think it is. But great, great. So I'm going to be over here answering emails. If you guys need help, can you come bug me? Yes, please do. My job is to help you. But I'm trying to chip in there because I know there's a lot of people who are worried about their grades and got that in. And now that cross country's over, I have time to answer things. So go ahead, guys. Let's get going on 4.4, and let's get that show on the road. Teach.